plough in right now. Oh yeah. I can probably get this field done, and then we'll call in at the workshop on the way back to field 7, I think it is. Yes, that is a drawback of the hook lift system. Is although the skip isn't very tall, it only has a 12,000 litre capacity. But as I said, I found while initially I was using the AR frames to service the harvesters, it wasn't ideal because the tippers on both the hook lift and the AR frames are quite small. And if you've got a big enough tractor, get yourself a 60,000 litre or 50,000 litre auger wagon, and you can get 3-4 loads from the harvester in the back of it. And it's much better suited for driving on the fields, plus usually has a steering rear axle. And you can put some hulking great tractor on the front with 400 or 500 horsepower, and you don't have much problem with hills. Where is it? No, loading wagon auger. Some strange looking auger wagons here. But where is it? Something like this. 43,000 litres. I thought there was a bigger one. That's 70,000 litres. You need 400 horsepower to operate that one. You need 280. So 280, 443,000 litres. I can get 2 or 3 loads from a harvester in the back of that. Oh. No, don't drive into the water. Thank you. And the nice thing now with auger wagons is you can fill them with seed and fertilizer directly. Same way you can fill a seeder or a fertilizer spreader. Just drive them up alongside it and press the button and it'll auto load. In 17 you couldn't load an auger wagon that way, so you had to have a front loader. What is it? It's in the silos. Can't remember where they've got it. This one is a storage silo which you can store lime and seed and solid fertilizer. So you could use your auger wagon, take it down to the store, load it with seed, come back and unload it into this thing. And that's definitely an option I would consider. Although that said, these days there's a lot of the in-farm resupply mods do sell, in some cases, seed and fertilizer cheaper than the store does, which didn't used to be the case in Farm Sim 17 in a lot of cases. it was always cheaper to go and buy the big bags of seed and fertilizer. It was just annoying because you had to drive down to the store and pick them up and find some way to transport them back, and then some way to transfer the load into your farm equipment. I did notice the Mercury Farm seed supply point that you can buy and place on in your yard does sell seed cheaper than the store does in the big bags. So at that point, why do I need to bother going to the store? Yeah, I have to pay for the refill point, but give it a couple of loads on the seeder or the fertilizer or whatever, and you've recouped that cost as a saving on the cost of seed. That's the downside of Lawfolds on 17, is the seed cost is about anywhere between 30 and 50% more, depending whether you're doing seed, fertilizer, liquid, or fertilizer solid. So having the supply points on the farms is a convenience, but it's not really a cost saving. So I'm sort of in a position where, I need 200 litres to finish this last field and then I'm done. Okay, I'll probably use the on-farm supply point because it's more convenient than running off to the store. But once I'm done with the planting season, or I'm coming up to planting season, I'm going to take an auger wagon down to the store and fill that up with big bags, because once again that's cheaper. And with an auger wagon I've got the convenience of having the seed on the field with the planter, so if the planter runs dry I can resupply on field rather than having to drive back to the yard and refill. Yes, I did like that, although the Horsch DLC for Farm Sim 17 came a little bit late in the day, and I was already using regular auger wagons for my seed, and I figured that going to that little seed and fertilizer tender, while it was good and cheap and probably would work for a farm like this, although the semi-trailer costs or the semi-truck costs a fair amount. Once you're established, I mean, you can, when you're bringing in a couple of £100,000, euros, dollars per harvest, dropping 28,000 on a regular auger wagon or 3 isn't a significant outlay. And a regular auger wagon will haul a lot more seed and fertilizer in it than the little seed tender that you get in the Horsch pack. But again, it depends on your farm scale. This farm, I couldn't really justify having 3 auger wagons, even small auger wagons. I couldn't justify the cost. How's the edge of this field gone? There we go. I'm mostly doing it this way because the river kind of gets in the way at the top end of the field. No, Arthur has been in the UK. Let's see, we were on vacation weekend before last, and that was the weekend he left for the UK. And he's just landed in Cleveland Airport today. So he was over there for what, about 9, maybe 10 days. Now Simone did stream with Arthur on her stream a couple of times. Oops. Let's go forwards. That works. Yay. Simone came back with him, so I don't know how soon it will be before he gets back to his semi-regular streaming schedule. I'm also wondering how opportune the announcement for the Washington DLC is for Truck Sim. Because with our current schedule, we're due to play ETS 2 this week and ATS next week on Thursday, which means that Washington State will be available next week for our regularly scheduled ATS session. However, I don't know if Washington will be enabled on Trucker MP. So we might not be able to do a Truckers multiplayer with Washington State. I haven't decided yet, but I may preempt the Old Stream Farm next week and do some ATS. We'll climb out of Portland up into Washington State and have a look around there. I'm not decided on that yet, but it will have to be a single player because I doubt Truckers MP will be updated on Tuesday. But also, since next weekend should be fairly open, I may look at doing a make-up session on Old Stream Farm sometime over the weekend, depending on what else is happening. But if Truckers MP is updated next Thursday, we will definitely do a Washington multiplayer for anybody who's got Washington State at that point. This weekend, yes. Yeah, last weekend we had 5 kids in the house, and it was, yeah, streaming on the weekend just was not possible. I think I dropped out the Friday night stream as well, which normally I would try and get done because the kids are supposed to be in bed by 8 o'clock. But there was a lot of supervising all the way through till about 11:30. So by 11:30 I'm like, yeah, I'm not streaming now. I need some sleep because I've got all of this tomorrow. The other thing is, normally on our 5 kid weekends, we don't get the additional 3 until after lunch on Saturday, so I can stream Lawfolds on Saturday morning, and they only stay one night, and they go back at lunch, just after lunch on Sundays. But this weekend their mum had a lot of extracurricular activity, wedding to go to and something else, so we had the kids from Friday afternoon all the way through to Sunday afternoon. Thus, Lawfolds was impractical, and so was streaming Friday night, it turned out, and Saturday night. I don't usually stream. Occasionally I will do. But yeah, this week I don't see any impediments to doing a Saturday morning stream. So that should happen. We can finish off. I think we could probably finish off the fall season and start skipping through winter. Because during winter we're going to have animals to feed every other day, while the feed bins usually last 3 days. I try not to let them drop below 1/3, just in case something comes up. So I feed them every other day. There are some points during winter. Go forwards again with the go forwards. Okay. Where some of the crops reach peak price, so we will do some crop selling and peak selling, and don't know if anything else needs to be sold. There'll be snow on the 3rd day, I think, 3rd or 4th, so we may take some time out to play in the snow. And then after that's all done, we'll skip through to spring, when we can once again work the fields and start preparing to plant a couple of cornfields and some soybean fields. Plan is to have all of the wheat, barley and canola planted by the last day of fall in the current year. And then we push on through to summer, hopefully get the cow achievement completed. And then in all likelihood I'll finish off the harvest of year 7, and with any luck Seasons 19 will be out, and I will probably switch to Oakfield Farm Seasons 19 for my Saturday morning stream, because it's the sort of farm that is going to take a lot of work, and playing Seasons is going to move slowly. Yeah, so next week we will have a shuffling of events on days because of Washington State release. I think today BattleTech Urban Warfare released. And I did play through the BattleTech campaign. But I haven't played that game for a while. I am a very old BattleTech player though. I played the tabletop game back pretty much from when it first came out. I might have been a year late into it. But, yeah, giant walking robots crushing trees, jumping up mountains, and even better, on the tabletop game you could set fire to the forests, which caused all sorts of heat problems for people in the forests. You may have concealment hiding behind that tree, but that tree's on fire, so you're cooking. While Mech Warrior was fun and for me challenging because I don't really do first-person shooters too well, and Mech Commander was a fun game. The Paradox Harebrained Schemes BattleTech is definitely true to the old tabletop rules. It's 10:30, good grief. Okay, how's this field doing? This is going to take a while. This is doing, actually, I should check my project fund. Oh, no, sorry, not project fund, hobby fund. Because I haven't bought any stuff since probably about February. So I may have a fair bit of money available for games and other stuff. Oops.